Hello and welcome back to All Things Trentside. Right, guys, I hope you're all well. I think you were lucky having 2 uploads in consecutive days. Of course, we all know it's because the Championship is reaching its conclusion and the games are coming thick and fast as we try and finish the season after it was suspended in March. So yeah, this is going to be my match review not review. I'm jumping the gun a bit, but this is going to be my match preview for the game for Forest as they head to Deepdale this time around. They're on the travels again, and they take on Preston North End, who are themselves in the hunt for the playoffs. So of course it was a bit disappointing for Forest last time out in the game against Fulham. We're going down 1-0, especially of course after what happened to, again at the end of the Derby game. I hate to keep mentioning it, but kind of have to, and the pundits will mention it for as long as they can. But yeah, it's been a tough week for Forest on the pitch. One win, 1 point out of 2 games. Of course, it could get a lot worse on Saturday, and then the pressure is really ramped up. So Forest are hopefully go to Deepdale with a fresh mindset and hopefully looking to put things right. It's going to be a tough game though. We'll get into that in a moment. Forest record and stuff against Preston, but Preston as well looking for to secure the playoffs. Got back to winning ways in midweek, so it'll be a boost for them, especially the way they did it as well, because it looked like for a long time it wasn't going to go that way. Preston, real tough opponents. Deepdale's a tough place to go without no fans though. Is that going to maybe just give Forest the boost they need going forward? We've seen that hasn't really phased them going forward, and they've just played their game with, sitting off the ball, letting the opposition have it. I think Preston are that type of team. They like having the ball, knock it around. Alex Neil's that type of manager. He did it at Norwich a bit, like having the ball a lot. He has reverted to a 3-4-3 formation now as well, which a lot of managers seem to play now, 3 at the back with the wing backs bombing on. It's going to be a tough one for Forest, trying to, especially Lewis Grabban against 3 centre half, how he's going to get into the game. That's if Preston set up like that, of course, and if they do as well, how Ribeiro deals with the wing backs, having to get up and down, and Cash also in that sentence. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Forest looking to put clear daylight between themselves and the top 6 and take a huge stride to booking a playoff spot for this year. And to be fair, they potentially could do. Their closest challenger, Swansea, sits 5 points behind Forest. And of course, Forest played before Swansea, and on Saturday, Swansea plays Sunday, but they have a real tough task against Leeds, who themselves are looking to make a step closer to automatic promotion. But then we have Preston and Derby coming in also, which is 7 points behind, but Forest will put a 10-point gap between themselves and Preston with a win at Deepdale on Saturday, and of course still maintain a 7-point gap over Derby if they do get the win at Deepdale. But I believe Derby have got a hard fixture list coming up, of course. So I think did they host Brentford? I'm pretty sure they play Brentford. They do. They play Brentford at Saturday lunchtime. So be interesting to see how that goes. Brentford, of course, chasing the playoffs down themselves and still have a slim chance at the top 2. So Forest really could go 10 points clear and albeit secure a playoff spot. Of course, it depends what happens with Swansea on Sunday. But of course, they play Forest on Wednesday next week. So real tough games coming up for Forest, especially all over the shot. It's been a while since we've all sat here and looked like, we need these to win or we need this to happen. It's normally the other way around. Teams are looking at us to do that for them. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It really is now getting to the point now where it seems what Forest are going to be made of. Real tough patch. We come up before lockdown, and we come out of that getting 2 wins on the spin. A draw and a loss probably feels like 2 losses in the last 2 games. But it's how you recover from that, and if we can finish the season strongly, then people will fear us in the playoffs. It's just hope we don't tail away. But it's going to be really, really interesting now to see how Forest react and how we move on at the start of the season to finish the season. So without further ado, let's get into the match preview for the game. So in regards to the team news, it looks like Forest only have one concern for the game, and that's of course a key play, if you will, and that's Joe Lolly, who came off with a knock in the game against Fulham. Did go down, I think, just before half-time, and then didn't re-emerge for the second half. If that is the case, it feels like Nuno da Costa will fill in that role like he did against Derby ahead of Amiobi, but Amiobi will start on the left. But Da Costa is also pushing for a start. I think he looked quite bright when he come on against Fulham. And I think Amiobi, for me, is the player that can come on and stretch the game as the game goes on, especially with Preston play with them full-backs. If they're getting up and down the pitch so often, around 70, 80 minutes, they are going to be tiring. So Amiobi can come on and stretch them, and have a run at him, which defenders will hate because he's so tricky and fresh legs. He's powerful going forward. Ryan Yates could also be in contention after coming on in the week. He's had a great start post lockdown. I feel he's a bit unlucky to lose out in midweek, but I feel like I say it was Forest's probably strongest 11. That was named midweek against Fulham. So I don't know. I mean, if Ryan Yates starts, you're not going to complain. I think he's not done too much of a bad job, but we normally play with that attacking midfielder, so you do think Thiago Silva is going to be used there again. But you never know. It could be Lamouche could settle like he did against Derby. I didn't think he was going to play 3 defensive midfielders in that game. We've seen it on occasion as well where he has, made a bold selection in the team sheets. I don't think he'll do that again. I think he learned his lesson against Charlton, but this is the football and this is the Championship, most unpredictable league in the world, so you never know what's going to happen. But as for Preston, they have no fresh injury concerns. Looks like everyone's fully fit at Alex Neil's disposal for this game. Probably the only news really is quite surprised that I've never seen this. I think Alex Neil, I've got a nice little bonus for this. He made 3 subs at the weekend in midweek against Sheffield Wednesday, and all of them scored. So Scott Sinclair, Jayden Stockley and Brad Potts are all pushing for a start after that. I mean, you've got to at least start one of them, haven't you? They've come on, saved you 3 points, got you 3 points, which Preston really needed, which we'll get onto at the moment. But other than that, Preston have a fully fit squad at their disposal, so got some good players as well, as we say. We'll get onto that in a moment. So it's not what you need at this point in the season, but it's showing as well though that the lockdown isn't really having an effect on some teams as people thought it might, especially playing in, say, these temperatures. We live in England. I don't know why we have a drinks break now. I think the players have got back up to speed, and if it is for the weather, I mean, it's been 13 degrees today, chucking it down, classic England. So yeah, Preston do have a fully fit squad though. We'll move on to the form guide now. As we know, Forest are looking to get back to winning ways after failing to win the last 2 games against Derby and Fulham, which would see us in a strong position for the playoff race. As I said, obviously, of course, we've put daylight between us and Swansea. I think we'd only need a point then if we beat Preston and Swansea lose to Leeds. And of course, we could secure that playoff spot with a win against Swansea on Wednesday. But this is Forest's longest run without a win since lockdown was paused and we was allowed to watch Forest play again. Not been in this run of form since we drew to Middlesbrough and lost to Millwall, and then that carried on with a draw against Sheffield Wednesday. So it's in the same pattern as well. So will we see Forest continuing the pattern here? Will they get a draw, loss, and draw? This is looking off for our first away win since Cardiff in February as well. Really strong travellers on the road this season. I think it's just the brakes have just been put on a bit. That Cardiff win was out of the blue really as well. They were really strong at home. I don't think they'd lost under Neil Harris, but such it is. But Forest need to put their away day hoodoos behind them again, because of course if there is a playoff fixture coming up, we do need to make sure that we're at it. Especially obviously we'll have one leg away. But after this, Forest will only have one game to play away from the City ground. Of course, if they don't get the playoffs, and that's against Barnsley. So hopefully Forest can finish the season strongly away from home as well, taking us into the playoffs if we get there. For Preston though, they have got back to winning ways in midweek, as I said, when they beat Sheffield Wednesday 3-1. They had to come from behind in that game. Surprisingly, it's their first win in 6 games, and that put them 3 points within the top 6. And that tells you how close this championship season is, that Preston can win their first game in 7 games and still be in contention for the playoffs. That's relegation form, losing, or not winning in 7 games, isn't it? Same with Forest though. We talk about how many points Forest have dropped, and that little blip after we beat Leeds. If we turn some of them defeats into draws or draws into wins, who knows where we could have been, especially them 12 points. I think that would have put us joint top, or we definitely would have been in the top 2. So it just proves how unpredictable this league is, though. Again, we spoke about in the Derby preview. The Derby looked nowhere near the top 6. 5 runs and they're on the cusp of it again. Preston now haven't won back-to-back games since February when they beat Wigan and Stoke, both away games. That moves me on to, they're looking for their first win at Deepdale since beating Hull in February as well. So, haven't really, it's kind of like Forest, but for their home form, haven't really enjoyed playing at Deepdale at the moment. I mean, they've gone a 7-game run. I don't think they enjoy playing home or away, but they are looking for that first win back at Deepdale. Unfortunately, it won't be in front of their home fans. So, be a while since Preston play in front of their own fans and get a win for them. But they obviously now know they have people cheering them on back home. I was surprised at that. Deepdale's normally a hard place to go, and Preston normally grind out results there. But this league's just so unpredictable, and obviously we did have the lockdown as well. But yeah, they got back to winning ways in midweek. They come from behind. Like I say, all 3 subs scoring: Scott Sinclair, Jaden Stockley, and Brad Potts with the goals. And that's put Preston in a good position, and they can close the gap. I think they'll go level on points with Cardiff if Cardiff lose. And of course, Derby and Swansea both having tough tests against people who are above them in the table might give Preston a slim chance to, knock on that playoff door again, as we see that Cardiff are playing another team that are chasing down automatic promotion just in Fulham. So it's really a really big chance for teams who are just on the cusp of the playoffs to take advantage this weekend, of course, with everyone playing each other in and around that, of course. It also gives Forest a big initiative as well, though, of course. If Derby were to beat Brentford and Forest were to beat Preston and Cardiff were to beat Fulham, Forest can jump up a few places and just finish up higher in the league. I don't think, automatic promotion's gone now. I think it's 10 points. Take a capitulation from Leeds, West Brom, Fulham and Brentford, which isn't going to happen. But even then, it's been nice to finish as high up as we can. Home leg advantage isn't really desirable when you play behind closed doors. But it is nice to know that they're coming to your place where it's hard to win, or vice versa. So it gives Forest a chance to get their highest position since 09-10 when we lost to Blackpool in the playoffs as well. No, I don't think we're like finishing fifth. I think I seen the stat the other day that out of all the playoff games we've lost, we've finished, have a third, fourth or sixth. We've not finished fifth yet. If we've finished fifth, the writing's on the wall that we'll go up. Obviously, we'd love to see that being the case, but it's ironic that that's happened. I think as well, I think it was always the stat that the team that finished in sixth in the playoffs always did well. And I don't know if that was the case that we're talking years ago when I heard that stat. But anyway, we digress. But yeah, going into previous meetings now, Forest drew with Preston earlier on in the season with a 1-1 draw. Albert Adoma cancelling out Billy Bowden's opener. I like that game, and I thought Forest were awful that game. Especially surprisingly saying this as he's been now one of our most consistent performers. And that was Thiago Silva. I remember he had an awful game, and then Forest the next day or the day after put on social media a player cam of Thiago Silva just focusing on him, and he had an awful game. Forest were awful that game as well. I remember we were lucky to get a point in the end. But as always, I feel it's been the case when I've been researching the games for these previews that Forest have an awful record against Preston. Really, one of our bogey teams in the past. We only won 2 in the last 10 games against them, losing 5 and drawing 3. We haven't won against Preston in 7 games since we beat them in 2016 at home, with Nelson Oliveira getting the goal in a 1-0 win. An even worse record at Deepdale. We haven't won in Deepdale in 4 games since a 2-0 FA Cup win, and not won in the league there since 2010. You might remember when Lewis McGugan come off the bench and scored 2. Ironically, our last 2 wins after that were both in the cup. It's a shame this isn't really a cup game, because we probably would back ourselves to get the win. Yeah, we haven't really had the greatest wins against Preston. I was researching how many games overall we played against Preston. They have more wins than us, and they have 42 wins to our 32. That's probably happened over in the turn of the millennium, really. I say Forest don't travel to Deepdale very well. The writing's always on the wall. I remember the 09-10 season we went there. It was toothless. We lost 3-0. There's been a few performances like that from Forest at Deepdale, so now it's Forest really need to pull up their socks to go and forward this game, especially because we've done it so many times. This season it looks like we've been to a place where we've struggled, or played teams that we've struggled. Cardiff being an example. We normally win at Cardiff and got a win there. Nearly got the win at Derby. Fulham, don't really get wins at Fulham usually. So we can do it. It shows that we can do it. So we just need to make sure we push on now. Like I say, it's a very hard place to go, but we need to make sure we're on top of our game, because of course the more that we drop points, the teams below us are going to try and capitalise on that, and especially if Swansea were to get the win against Leeds and then against us, it puts them above us. It's a crazy division, but there's no better time for Forest to go to Preston and get a win, the first win, their league win since the season we actually finished in the playoffs, so it's a good omen also. But as always, we're going to look at the key player now. Normally I haven't gone for an attacking midfielder, I've gone for Ben Pearson for Preston, the man they signed for Manchester United in 2016. He's a very physical player, breaks up play well, kind of like our Samba Sal, not afraid to get stuck in. He's very physical, very aggressive, and also loves the yellow card. I don't know how many he's got this season, but I think I've seen that he's got 9. Not that many. Jack Colback numbers we're not talking about, but he does love a yellow card. He's not afraid to get stuck in either. It's a weird one, Preston. They normally just buy Irish players from the Irish leagues or lower down. They work out. Jayden Stockley from Exeter. Tom Barkhausen was from, I think he was at Morecambe or Blackpool. Sean Maguire was playing in the Irish league. Graham Burke's gone there. Josh Ginnelly. There's a few players that Preston they've built their squad really from nothing. There's not really many key players who played in the Premier League. Probably Daniel Johnson, Scott Sinclair, who have come from, no disrespect to Preston, but bigger clubs at the time. So they've done really well to get in the position they are, and they find the gems. They've got a good scout who really kicks them on and brings in these players that probably play their type of way. That's probably why it works so well. And finally, as always, we're on referee watch. Referee for this game is Jeremy Simpson. He has managed 3 Preston games this season. 3-0 wins for against Barnsley and Wigan, and a 0-0 draw against Cardiff. So it's unbeaten for Preston, if you will, when he's took charge of their games this season. He took charge of Forest defeat in February in Birmingham, but he did give us a penalty that game. So he's not afraid to make them decisions if it looks a penalty. I can't even remember if the penalty against Birmingham was Stonewall or not, so I can't really comment on if he's not afraid to give it or not, because it might have been so obvious that he had to give it. But he will give a penalty if needed, so it'll be interesting to see, especially with Sambaso and Ben Pearson coming up against each other, if he likes to give out his yellow cards as well, and even a red. We've seen it since lockdown. Forest have had 3 red cards given against the opposition when they've played us. So if we can wind them up, especially someone like Ben Pearson, just getting his head and frustrate him early on, then he could lash out. I know he's got that in his system. But yeah, guys, that just really gets all the stats out of the way for this game. I hope you get bored with me repeating all these stats and going into them, but it probably depresses you, because I tell them really that how bad our performances and records have been against teams in the past. It's so good to see that after this season that we might actually be able to say they haven't beat us, or we won there when we don't normally win, etc. Just adds a tally onto the win column rather than another loss. But yeah, Forest are going to have to make sure they give everything at Preston, a ground that they don't normally get a win. But about the deepdale atmosphere, intimidating factor of the fans, it might give them a slight advantage to get that win and secure that playoff spot. All but I think if Forest get a win here this weekend with Preston, of course we beat Preston, Derby playing Brentford and Swansea playing Leeds, it puts us in a real good position, especially with that game against Swansea coming up in midweek. Big game as well. It'll be even bigger if Forest do drop points. But yeah, guys, that was my match preview for this game against Preston. I don't really normally give out score predictions anyway, but it's going to be a hard one to call. It always is for Forest. You never know what's going to turn up. Is it going to be the team that played against Leeds so well, or is it going to be the team that played against, I'd say, Fulham, didn't really create much and going forward? But I don't know how it's going to go. All I know is I just want us to get this playoff victory assured as soon as possible. Playoff victory, we all want that. Get this playoff spot assured as soon as possible so we can rest key players. I think if Joe Lolly is injured, it's going to be a big blow. We need to nurse him back into it. But if he isn't, and he is carrying a slight knock, he maybe can come back for the games we need him and then rest him rest a few key players, Grabban, because if anything was to happen to Lewis Grabban, I mean, touch wood it doesn't, then we probably would be screwed now. We don't really know. The lack of goals that we have without him in the team is frightening. I mean, Nuno might step up to the plate, but we haven't seen enough of him yet to make that decision. Tyler Walker's not been involved since coming back. So yeah, it's going to be difficult going forward for Forest, especially against a Preston side that set up well and hard to break down. But if they have more of the ball, we can play our game and go forward and go at them when we can and let them have the ball, which Forest don't like doing. But when we have the ball, we know we can do damage to teams. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game going forward. I think I say that about every game, but it's the Championship, I don't think there's one game where I would say, Forest should get the win here or Forest should lose, because we either play well against the top teams and then do less good against the bottom half of the team. Or not really since lockdown, apart from Sheffield Wednesday at the start of the football coming back, didn't really, play someone who's been mid-table. It's either been someone who's challenging for the playoffs or at the bottom. But yeah, it's another playoff contender, another one to show people what we can do and put a gap between them and probably dent Preston's hopes of finishing in the top 6. It's really going to be a massive game on Saturday. Both sets of players are going to be up for it, and hopefully we'll have a cracking game. And come Saturday evening, we'll be celebrating 3 points and a step closer to the playoff spot. But yeah, guys, like I say, thanks for listening. I know it's hard when I've uploaded already today and you've got to watch both, but it's what happens when you try and do this. And I say I'm going to try and explore different avenues for this, saying if I do a preview and a review in one. But we'll see going forward. Like I say, at this moment in time, I'm not changing nothing because there's no point now with so many little games to go this season. Once the season's over, I can sit down and go back to the drawing board. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, like, comment, subscribe, let your friends know. Follow us on social media. The links will be in the description down below. But I do appreciate all your support, and hopefully you are enjoying the content that I'm making at the moment. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening. Hopefully we get 3 points on Saturday, and I'll be able to make a better review than I did for the Fulham game, and a more cheerier review as we get back to winning ways and hopefully a step closer to the playoff spots. As always, guys, stay safe and come on, you Reds.